A Tale of Two Captains. A Shoto Todoroki ex-reader. Written by Jules. Chapter 8. While you were in your office that night, you discussed your recruitment plan with your second mate. Your lust for vengeance was cut short by none other than Koval, who gave you a different perspective. You could be more gentle with him, Captain. It can prove to him that you're not the recluse he claims you are. You snorted and leaned against the window. Koval was a kind girl at heart and could never hurt a soul. She would only ever knock adversaries unconscious. Killing always made her uneasy, even when the blood wasn't in her hands. Gentle? What about me shows that I am capable of being gentle? You challenged. Todoroki was no one to be gentle with, especially with his history. He was a cold-blooded murderer and a fake admiral who only bathed in his own self-despair. Captain, I don't mean to overstep, but when you were crying the other day, you apologized. You made sure our anxieties were absolved. On top of that, you still handle your parents' belongings delicately, Koval explained, leaning on the opposite window. All I ask is that you communicate before wrapping your hands around his neck. I understand, but what is talking to him going to do? He's an imbecile. He wouldn't listen to me. Hell, if I were in his shoes, I wouldn't listen to me either. Koval snapped her fingers and pointed at you, using her free hand to move her bangs out of the way. Say that again. Say what? His shoes. Oh. I said if I were in his shoes, You clamped your mouth shut once you realized the filth that was coming out of it. Koval always managed to find a flaw in your system. And now that she was aware of it, she would do everything in her power to make sure you acknowledged it. How could she do this to you? After all you've done together? Why in the world would she ask you to cooperate with that snake? I'm sorry to say, Captain, but I see what you refuse to see in yourself. Tell him the truth about the guard of UA. Re-educate him if you must. But don't have him gasping for air right away. You wouldn't want to become predictable, would you? Ha! I am anything but predictable. I am the spontaneous and ruthless captain. I still got it. I always have and always will. You paraded around the room as you boasted to no one in particular, Koval watching with an amused expression. I'll re-educate him. I'll show him how much of a bastard every single one of those guards are. Once my influence reaches him, his mice won't be too far. The stress of the conversation with Todoroki called for another cup of tea. The liquid was one of the best human inventions their puny brains had managed to come up with. Your body relaxed as you took a long sip, not bothering to cool the liquid before letting it warm your throat. The former guards were adjusting to the new environment quickly, keeping stations intact and following every order you issued. With 5 new members, maintaining the ship wouldn't require you to spend as much money on any repairs. Todoroki stood beneath you, observing the small cluster you wanted to visit within Andromeda. You peered down at him as he scrolled through the files. Now that he was out of that nasty uniform, donned in an old shirt and trousers that belonged to a departed family member, he kept grabbing your attention more than you liked. Give me a second opinion, you told him. Should I go see my old friend and have him cash in a few favors? Or should I avoid him completely? You took another sip of tea and put your shawl over your head. Todoroki pulled up the file on your friend, an old coot you affectionately called Spats. He reread the file and turned to face you, looking up but not quite at you.
Given your history, I don't think you'd be welcome in his home. You've stolen most of his weapons, all except for the devil's wife.
He focused on the lights behind you, which you decided to ignore for now. In due time, he would be able to face his actions and accept his new reality. That doesn't answer my question, Todoroki. Please don't bore me with useless details. I already know how he feels about me. Help me decide what I should do. The both of you frowned and had a livid staring contest.
Go at your own risk, he said through gritted teeth, which only made you sneer at him.
Oh, good! You're coming with me. You and Todoroki hopped into the pod, with you taking the passenger side and letting him have control. You began to prep for launch and buckled in. He was staring at you. You made the mistake of looking back at him.
What game are you playing? He asked. Threatening me and my team, then treating us like your crew? You're planning something, so I suggest telling me the real reason you haven't thrown me out yet.
Todoroki closed the latch and buckled in, but didn't push the lever to launch. So he was going to trap you here until you talked? Koval's reasoning was starting to get less rational the more you sat in the pod. No games, just the truth. Now let's go! We're on a schedule and Admiral Bakugo is probably hunting us down as we speak. You reached over and pulled the lever down, making the pod drop and blast you two forward. Albatross, take me to see Old Man Spats.
Right away, Captain.
You leaned back in your chair and pulled up a monitor, typing away at the hologram keyboard. Todoroki was starting to grow impatient with you. He shut off the monitor and grabbed your attention once more.
So what is this truth? I'd like to know, because in thinking about what you said, I found no truth in it.
But you did think about it. So you're either denying it to yourself, or you really are as dense as I thought, and I should kill you once we reach our stop. You didn't have your gun with you, but there were plenty of ways to send this man off, each option becoming more colorful than before. You took a deep breath and tried to quench the thirst for his blood. Something else was stopping you. You didn't have enough time to dwell on it because Spat's residence was in your sights. It was a large meteor with all kinds of pipes running through it. We can discuss this later. Now we have to get more firepower and leave. Spending too much time here always ends in total disaster. Land the pod. Todoroki grabbed the lever and forced the two of you down, making the pod scrape against the meteor with a loud screech. It was infuriating. You pressed your mask on and popped the latch open with your leg, using your hands to throw Todoroki out of it.
Want me to fight you in the flesh? You growled.
Fine. You'll have me. You ran at him. He was up in time to block your first punch, grabbing your wrist and twisting it harshly. A popping sound made you yelp. You recoiled and tried your best to dodge his blows with only one functioning arm, which wasn't working as well as you hoped. Todoroki decided to go for your stomach this time, knocking the wind out of you and sending you to your knees. You wheezed as he stood over you, your labored breathing fogging up the visor of your helmet.
Basking in the victory, huh?
You coughed, the pain from your previous burn erupting and temporarily rendering you immobile. In the corner of your eye, you noticed a figure and heard a click. Oh no. You pushed yourself forward and tackled Todoroki as the gun fired. Looks like Spats was going to greet you first.
Didn't I tell you never show your stinking face here again, brat?
Spat's raspy voice and shaky footsteps drew closer. This had been what you wanted to avoid. As soon as he had a gun in his hand, there was no talking to him. You looked down at Todoroki, who was still trying to process the fact that you were on top of him.
Get off,
he mumbled. Gladly. Todoroki and you stood, as the short old man before you continued to rant about how you kept harassing him.
Now go on, take your stupid boy toy with you.
The term boy toy made you burst into hysterical laughter, in spite of the burning pain in your side. You continued when you saw Todoroki's look of utter disgust. You wouldn't turn away your adopted child, would you? You asked, getting on one knee so you were eye level with Spats. He was basically a shriveled up gray prune that gained sentience, as well as one of the most high-risk villains on his side of the galaxy. He turned his back to you and began walking off.
I should have let you rot with the way you left me like that.
You knew he was playing with you when he made a come here motion with his finger. You began to follow him, looking back at Todoroki, who still hadn't gotten the hint. Come on. I know you made a fair deal with him. That staff was way out of your league. He nodded quietly and walked past you.
You know, that's what he said when he handed it to me.
Did he? Well, now I know you can't use it. The two of you disappeared inside Spat's shack without another word. Chapter 9. Spats set up a small table for you, pouring a mysterious brown liquid into a rusted cup.
Drank.
You thanked him and took a small sip. You never learned the name of the beverage, but you'd grown up drinking it every morning when you lived here. Todoroki eyed the liquid with such intensity, you were sure it would vaporize under his gaze. It won't hurt you. I used to drink this all the time when I was a kid. You took another sip. Unless you don't want it, because I'll take it from you. He slid the cup over to your side, and you chugged the first cup down so you could get to the second before Spats noticed you had two. You wiped your mouth and leaned back in the rickety chair, rocking back and forth on your heels. You examined your wrist. It was out of place, and with the way it was twisted, putting it back into place would be quite the issue. You weren't one for off days. Even with bad injuries, you still fought and controlled your ship.
I can put it back. Give me your hand.
You held your hand closer to your chest defensively as Todoroki held out his. Oh, you can't be serious.
Give me your hand. Now.
You glared at him and slowly placed your hand in his. It was smooth and soft. Very different from your calloused and war-torn fingers. You looked away from him until you felt a sharp pain go through you. Hey! Watch it, you... Ugh! He twisted it again, and it popped back into place with 3 simple movements. Your shriek garnering no reaction from the male. There was pain, then instant relief. Your hand was back in its normal position. A little swollen, but nothing Koval couldn't solve. Thank you. You turned away and waited for Spats to come back from whatever he was doing. For about another 5 minutes, there was a painful silence. You rocking in your chair and Todoroki observing the room for the 10th time in a row. His pensive face said more than he ever could have in a typical conversation with you. The shack is a hoax. His real home is in the meteor we're on right now. Hence the pipes you see surrounding it. You commented casually, playing with one of the cups in your hands.
I've never been down there. Have you?
Once or twice when I was younger. Now I'm confined to this small shack and table.
Is that because you stole from him?
Todoroki seemed like he already knew the answer. And while he was right, there was a bigger picture. I did. But if it were me, I would never allow my child to take advantage of my love. I spent about 2 years trying to make it up to him. I sent him money, more materials. I even came to visit. Soon enough, I was in his good graces again. So the little gimmick you saw outside, it was just a joke he likes to play on me. The memories made you smile. A genuine, soft smile.
You talking about how you took my wife from me?
Spats appeared with several cases stacked above him. Yes, sir. Do you want her back?
Nah, keep her. I got another one.
You laughed and got up, taking half the load and setting it on the ground.
Alright, what brings it here, Squirt? I see you got your crush with you.
Okay, the taunting was getting old, but you couldn't fight the blood rushing to your ears. For the last time, I do not have any fondness for the formal admiral. You know how much I hate him. This debate had been going on for years, and the argument was practice art at this point.
Sure you don't. Just like I didn't suffer through all those rants about how the Admiral ruined your life and there was nothing more you wanted than him.
I wanted him dead, you corrected, more blood rushing to your face as you tried to defend yourself. It was Todoroki's turn to laugh. It came out in short chuckles, but he was still laughing at you. Shut up this instant or I'll—
Cry. That's all you did when you talked about him. Cry, cry, cry until you fell for his pretty eyes. You think my eyes are pretty?
No! You faced him and pointed an accusing finger at him. It was you who kept chasing me, remember? Have I ever gone after you? Spats tapped your knee, and you looked down at his amused face. You were backing yourself into a corner again. I hate you.
I love you too, Squirt.
You sat back down in the chair with your arms crossed, as if you were a child who just got told to sit down after being promised a reward that was overdue. This only served to fuel Todoroki's laughter a bit more. Your face was as red as Mars. Quiet or I'll kill you.
Oh, your face says otherwise.
Why are you looking at my face? See something you like?
The embarrassment. Red is not your color.
You stormed out of the shack, cursing at the open air and kicking whatever scrap metal into the stars to calm your fury. He was so infuriating, siding with that old bastard just to tease you. You were supposed to be the one teasing him, making him feel like he was beneath you. This power struggle was going to cost your second mate. The sky was able to calm your nerves just a bit. Each star glimmered around you. Spats had chosen a wonderful spot for his self-inflicted exile. He was a family friend. Your mother grew up with him before she'd married your father. She would tell you stories about how Spats would take her on all sorts of trips, showing her the planets and how to travel through space. Everything you did as a pirate derived from Spats' teachings. You missed your mother the most out of your parents. She would have been proud of what you did, mostly. Floating there on that solitary rock reminded you of your thoughts that caused you to hesitate when taking in Todoroki. You'd seen him smile. Hell, you didn't even think he was able to do anything but command and frown. I mean, if you were asked to shoot a man sitting in front of you with no explanation and you knew next to nothing about him, would you still shoot him? Or would you question the decision? Think about that. Those words played in your head. You were a hypocrite in a way. You knew all the factual things about the dual-haired male, but you knew next to nothing about him overall. All this time you'd spent pushing his buttons, finding out some of his personal life, just to discover he was in the same boat as you. He knew you were suffering from your parents' death, as well as your criminal record. But that was it. The two of you wanted to kill based on perception. Your thoughts were interrupted by a tap on the shoulder, Todoroki standing behind you.
I told Spats the situation. He said to wait outside with you.
All right. You can stay. Hello, it's your friendly neighborhood Freckle here, and we're gonna see how long I have to stay locked in my closet for me to finish recording, and how long does it take for me to start losing my mind in this room with no windows, away from civilization. I believe the transformation to crazy is already happening. Sorry. Chapter 8. More like chapter late, am I right? Because it's been over a month. Give me a second, because I just thought about a story that happened a couple days ago. Let me tell you all a tale beyond tales, a tale beyond tales beyond tales. So, the other day I was cleaning up my room, and I stepped on an earring. Yes, folks, a tiny metal rod pierced my foot, causing immense pain. So the next day I wake up and my foot is in incredible pain and it's swollen, and I'm like, oh crap. Dude, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna need to get my foot amputated now. This is the end. So I take myself a little trip to the doctor's office, and I'm talking to the secretary, filling out all my information, whatever. And she's like, so what seems to be the problem? And I was like, there was an earring stuck in my foot, and it hurts a lot more than usual, and I'm just trying to make sure it's not infected, and or there's still a piece of metal in my foot. She's like, okay. I continue filling out my information, and then finally I go and I see the doctor. And the doctor's like, what seems to be the problem? And I explained to her that I stepped on an earring and my foot is now swollen, and I'm just trying to make sure that there's not a piece of earring in my foot or it's infected. And she's like, huh, that's it? You just stepped on an earring? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, why did the secretary put down a personal reason for your ailment here? So she goes out to talk to the secretary, and it turns out the secretary misheard me and thought I said I had glass stuck in my butt. And so, to my horror, I realize that I've been sitting here making small talk with this secretary and filling out my information, seated in a chair, mind you, very calmly, mind you, and I'm just talking to her with shards of glass just sticking out of my butt. And this is, I guess, what she thinks is going on with me. And that's my story. So basically, don't step on things, ever. Learn how to fly, friends. It's the safest way. Or wear Crocs or whatever, I don't know. I'm just a space kid. Oh my gosh, y'all, Todoroki is basically your secretary. Secretary Todoroki! You better not be assuming you got glass in your butt. Todoroki closed the latch and buckled in. Seatbelts, so we can be safe. The both of you frowned and had a livid staring contest. Don't blink, don't blink, don't blink! Come on, one of his eyes has a scar on it. You can take him! Fight! Fight, fight!
Threatening me and my team, then treating us like your crew.
Then treating us like your gang? Treating us like your squad? Treating us like your friendship club of friendship? Making the pod drop and blast you two forward. Yo, my stomach would just bloop. You know, like when you're on a roller coaster and you go down a drop, it's just like bloop. Oh my god, my favorite part about roller coasters is the loop-de-loops. I love loop-de-loops. I love loop-de-loops. Can Spats really be like a crazy old man? He's like, old man McGucket! He's like, oh, battle. Didn't I tell you never show your I don't even know how to do this one. You looked down at Todoroki, who was still trying to process the fact that you were on top of him. Wink wonk. Get
Take your stupid boy toy with you.
Boy toy.
I can put it back. Give me your hand.
Okay, Todoroki, honey, dear, this is not a cookie you took out of a cookie jar, okay? It's not like, oops, sorry, took a cookie, didn't mean to. I can put it back. This is somebody's limb, arm, wrist, body part. You can't just put it back. It, como se dice, hurts, is painful. Ah!
Give me your hand. Now.
Give me your hand. No. I'm Todoroki, and I think that I'm an assertive person.
Sorry I dislocated your hand. Here, let me just pop it back into place. Now it's a moment.
Stare into his eyes as he pops your hand back into place. You can see the lobe,
The beauty in his face.
New single, Dislocated Wrist. Find it on Spotify. Please don't. For the love of God, do not. You will be so disappointed. So very disappointed. I've been recording this whole thing essentially balancing on one foot because, my foot. You heard the glass in the butt story. So anyway, yeah, I'm balancing on one foot. Kicking whatever scrap metal into the stars to calm your fury. Dude, do you know how strong you have to be to kick metal into space? Strong as hell.
I see you got your crush with you.
Wink wonk. Ayy, Spats knows what's up. Spats is really going in. Go off. Go off. Ah, I love him. He's my favorite character. Stare into his eyes, stare into his eyes, look into his face, look into his face, as he pops your dislocated hand back into place. Are they screams of pain or are they screams of love?
Are they screams of pain or are they screams of love?
Don't look now, there might be traces of blood. Because you were injured by the man in front of you. But he healed you, so now it's okay. Stare into his face. Stare into his face.
Dislocated hand.
Ooh.